Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome on Tunis International Radio. You are listening right now to the daily edition of English language program presented by Huda bin Sheikh on our Studio 1 with my colleague Faisal Halili for the technical engineering. Hope you're having a great time on this very special day. It is almost summertime in Tunisia, a little bit windy, but it's so great. Today we're going to speak about an interesting conference that was held by actually May, the 21st of May, 20 and 21st of May. And it is actually a conference that was really interesting because it is talking about how is the connection between artificial intelligence and journalism. For this, I would like to thank my guest over the phone, Mr. Wael Yahyaoui, moderator of the conference on exactly AI and journalism, exploring ethical and professional challenges. Wael Yahyaoui from the Deutsche Welle Academy. I would like to thank him as we are having him from Germany. Hi, Wael, how are you?
Hey, greetings, Huda, and greetings to everyone who chose to tune in to this session.
Thank you so much for accepting the invitation. So you've been the moderator of this conference on AI and journalism. So we are quite curious about what was actually on the conference, the objective of it. I mean, what was the purpose? Of course, exploring AI and how AI can help journalists in their work. But I suppose there are plenty of challenges for journalists in the performing of their job, especially with this technology facilitating their life. But it's not only, it doesn't only have advantages, but also it has drawbacks. So can you tell us what was the theme on? What kind of talks have been there? Who are the experts? What is the outcome also? Because I suppose that this enriching exchange, people can come out with recommendations.
Indeed. It was definitely enriching, and we had super cool fun actually during the conference. So for everyone, the conference brought together a wide and ambitious actually mix of different practitioners in Tunisia and as well in the MENA regions. Mm-hmm. We had journalists, we had media entrepreneurs, we had technologists, we had fact checkers, activists, and so on. So all of them really asking how can we build the media of tomorrow. And as you emphasized it, so it's organized by the Deutsche Welle and supported as well by the EU-funded project, the PAM2. Mm-hmm. And the key question that we had in the conference, how do we make AI and digital transformation at large meaningful, ethical, and inclusive, of course, within the media sectors. Mm-hmm. So we were very critical. So very critical, especially what we're having in Tunisia and so on. So we talked about the infrastructures. So how broken or how established they are or how early in their phases there. We talked about the audience and how to build the trust there. We discussed a lot actually about Gen Z and about a very, very different approach there. We talked about the algorithms, the opaque algorithms, if I may, on different actually social medias, how things are evolving there, how things are impacting per se the mission or the métier of a media eventually at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. And we talked about the ecosystems. So how fragile are the ecosystems? Because at the end of the day, AI, yes, it's a big topic now, and it surely actually will be there for a few years at least. But at the end of the day, it's a digital transformation. So how are we equipped really to digitally transform or to get on this transformation? Mm-hmm. Do we have the right skills? Are we maintaining really the knowledge of our journalists? Are they well equipped? Do we have enough resources there? But especially for a sector as the media, mm-hmm. it's quite really, really important to talk about the technology where eventually you cannot really know what's happening in this black box. Mm-hmm. In a media that requires verification, in a media and in a sector that requires actually knowing where those sources of information and being 100% sure of this. Mm-hmm. So it was a lot of those discussions about those. It was about the interoperability as well, mm-hmm. because it's not only the media, it's about understanding about the other industries. So how are other people actually are shaping and so on and so on. And it was a very hands-on one. So hands-on one as in we discussed about Tunisia in particular. Mm-hmm. So we discussed as well about, okay, if I would like to have a certain application, how can I pay for that? We really got back to the very operational hands-on questions. If I need this particular thing, how can I be sure that it's hosted at this place and not the other? So it was really, really cool discussions around those. Of course, we had our outputs. Of course, actually, we'll share as well with the audience and with the public the different points that we discussed there. But it was super fun time to see really emerging nice medias in Tunisia. Mm-hmm. to meet again the media that we've been supporting since the last 6 to 7 years, actually, in Smart Media Accelerator with Deutsche Welle, and to meet, of course, our Tunisian media, so the primers and the mainstream that we all know in the Tunisian scene there.
Okay, so who came actually there? Are they only journalists or experts from the international scene? I suppose from the television establishment, radio establishment, written media also. Who are the journalists have been there, and who are the experts too?
So yeah, we had definitely from the written media in Tunisia. We had from Tunisian televisions. On the radios, we had as well from our community radios. So the different local community radios that, again, we've been supporting since a while. We had as well the digital media. So the one most of us know maybe on Instagram, on TikTok, on Facebook, and so on. So from a media scene, it was quite very diverse and very really different with the different media formats and so on. And then from the technologists, we had people actually that practice those technologies on a day-to-day. So we had mostly international experts. We had Tunisian-based actually out there, so me included on those topics. So we had people that practiced those technologies and led those transformations in other industries to get the learnings from them.
Yeah.
So, and this was super cool. So this kind of mixture, yeah, it was super fun to witness discussions, and it was as well super cool to see how the different approaches. We had, for example, the press club from INSAT, and it was as well a very different perspective. We had digital media that are focused only on the youth, so again, fully focused on the Gen Z. And you have from the other side, for example, with AFP or with even Deutsche Welle and so on. So it was quite interesting to see how multiple languages were talking, and it was quite interesting to see the speed of the change that's been happening for the last years. It's really mind-blowing there.
Yes, it is mind-blowing actually, and I suppose it's really a very enriching platform of exchange that has been there during the conference, where you are gathering all the stakeholders in the media sector. I mean, being CSOs, civil society organizations, professionals, but also young journalists. And so, what is the outcome of the conference? What are the real challenges for Tunisia today in the era of this digital transformation and for journalism?
So the good thing in Tunisia is that what we saw, the journalists in Tunisia mainly ask really the right questions, which is always actually the first positive step there. And then we explored mostly 4 or 5 points that we can surely share. So, of course, there's a lack of interoperability and maturity in the data systems. So, of course, not everyone knows really how his role would be adjusted with this, how his role as a journalist or his role as someone from the back end in a media organization would be assisted by AI. So this is one. Second, there's a certain disconnection or certain general disconnection between the editorial decision-making and the real audience intelligence. And here in the audience intelligence, there's different layers there, because sometimes we misread sometimes the numbers on the social media as audience intelligence, but are they really there? Or maybe those are the manifestations actually of the social network itself. So that was the key point there. Third, of course, we discussed about the data infrastructures. And we discussed about the tools. And we do have Tunisian tools. So they're not very much known, but we do have super cool, useful tools there. But we discussed how can we use them at scale. Of course, one of the main challenges that comes always is money. So it's the resources, it's the budget. We do have solutions for that. There are solutions out there in the market, but then you need to balance between data privacy, between transparency. So there's a nice balance to play with that. And mostly there's a nice balance, as I told you in the beginning. We're talking about a technology where eventually it's a black box, which fundamentally is quite opposite on one of the fundamentals actually of the media industry per se, or on the journalism. We're talking about verification of the news, and we're talking about being sure of what to transfer to the audience. So this is a technological kind of way there. What we discussed as well, the last point, is maybe the really concrete step forward would be to think about it as a next step in automating certain processes. So as it could be like in the redaction, for example, AI can help me multiplying or getting new sources of infos, or maybe not moderating, but collecting a certain set of news and so on and so on. Maybe it can help me reshape them. Maybe it can help me prioritize those news. Maybe in production, actually, it can help me a lot. It can help me to introduce, to optimize the voice quality or the sound quality. Maybe it can help me optimize images. Maybe creating other images if I'm making a certain documentary about a certain space and so on and so on. It can, of course, help me maybe to make my text, if I'm writing something, more inclusive. Or it can help me to be like the sparring partner in the writing phase. So basically saying, hey guys, no, actually you didn't think about this and this. Maybe you need to balance it here and here. So there's different aspects that can help, but the key thing, I think, what we saw concretely is that it can help just taking the normal tasks that we do every day. So basically just writing them down in some bullet points and saying, okay, this task can be supported by AI, this cannot so far. And that's where you get somehow the human in the loop there. So basically it would be a cool process powered by AI, and somehow we're still in control as we learn. So because something very, very important, we are always iterating. So there's no one really have the right answer for that. Other international media industries, media companies, they already started this since like 15 years, 10 years, but still actually they don't have the magic recipe there. So it's a very complex balance to be found in a specific, in the specific actually environment that you are, with the specific skills and employees that you have. So it's always kind of a very tailored and personalized experience for each media. And this, of course, this is really doable for every digital media or classical big like TV company there, or any radios and so on. So all of them are kind of equal when we talk about AI and access actually to those kind of technologies so far.
Great. So it's amazing what you're saying. You're right to the point. I would like to come out to 2 points. There are actually today, every time we're speaking about AI, we are speaking about artificial intelligence replacing men, and people are worrying today. I mean, this AI is going to replace journalists. Actually, it is doing everything, improving voice, improving text, improving images, facilitating the job of a journalist. And some are saying, okay, it seems that it is going to replace men in every field, and journalism is one of them. The second point is, I'm really curious about the points that have been dealt with when it comes to ethics, because we know that artificial intelligence today, there is a thin line between artificial intelligence, human capacity, and ethics. Where does artificial intelligence has to stop? Where are the limits of man when he is using artificial intelligence in the field of journalism mainly?
So yeah, definitely great question. So for the first question, where is the limit kind of each role? So on the human and on the AI side and so on, and if AI would replace it. So let's be sure about something. It's definitely a risk in all the industries. It's not only the media.
Exactly.
And definitely it's a good sign because people are seeing the impact of AI, which is quite a huge one, quite a sizable one.
Yes.
But as well, if we see all of the revolutions that happened actually to human beings all over the history, there's always a strong adaptation for those actually who adopt the technology, of course, about those roles. There's a certain shift in the description of the role itself. So if we have the answer now, we don't. But actually, what we're sure of is definitely it's not replacing the human as a value or the human as a person, but it's definitely taking over a lot of tasks. And it's for us actually to try to see where we can make what we call agents, where we can actually make kind of think about it as a team of agents, as a team of persons run by AI, and maybe led or coordinating by a certain person. But still, I don't think there's someone who has the answer for this, but the risk of not actually embracing this technology is even bigger than just saying, oh no, actually it will replace the human beings and so on and so on. And we're seeing it. I mean, it's not about thinking, oh, our media is so big that actually this technology cannot just change it. Actually, it can. And we're seeing it in multiple places that a small new digital media or whatever we want to call it, just with 3 persons, really having much larger audience and much better quality than one of the big players actually all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, a lot of companies are even closer of its bankruptcy, but it's as well strong change, and it's as well death eventually. So they will not be existing in just few months or years. And some, they do not really realize this. So yes, to your question, the risk is there, but the risk is even bigger if we don't embrace this change. So yeah, this is for the first one. And for the second one about ethics, and this is a huge and wide debate. So we had a really lot of discussions on those, but it ends up always to, from the technological side, to try to be always agnostic. What does it mean to try not to rely on only one technology? Because eventually every technology is biased.
Mm-hmm.
Every technology is being made by a developer that has his own cultural background, his own thinking. And maybe actually the team of developers, there were only men, there were no women. So there are different kinds of bias in the making of the technology itself. So not only the geopolitical influence, but really the normal day-to-day kind of bias elements there and so on. So the first thing is not to be relying on one technology. And we've seen it. We've seen, for example, OpenAI from the US, and then we saw DeepSeek from China, and then when you ask certain questions, you have different answers.
Answers are different, yeah.
Exactly. So there's this agnostic part of it, of course. And then about the human in the loop, of course it will remain there. And especially as we don't fully, it's not about really trust as well, but we don't really know what's inside this black box.
Yeah.
So it's not talking about mysteries and so on, just talking about we need to find a way to deal with this technology in the right way. And with the recent, for example, Google announcement last week, you see the increasing risk, even the increasing risk will happen to the websites of the different medias. So for example, for me now, when I see a certain news, I click on the link and then I go to the website of the media itself and I check the article and so on and see what it's talking about and so. But then actually with the recent changes, that quite subtle changes happening especially to Google, now whenever you ask a question to Google, you'll find the answer without actually having to go to the website of the media. And of course, Google is being nurtured from those websites, and Google is really being smart about collecting everything that you would know without really going out from his page or from the very famous first page of Google.
Yeah.
And that's what it tells us. Of course, it's a risk. But then as well, it's another sign that maybe for the media companies and for the media organizations, they have to negotiate or they have actually to rethink their business model there. So the first question you emphasize is the risk to the journalist.
Yeah.
The second actually is about the risk to the media or to the organization that the world is changing. We need to change. We need to adapt. So it is what it is. That's the game. So we need to adapt to that. And the risk of not adapting is much bigger than actually playing the game per se.
Exactly. I really like your explanation, and this is right to the point. Actually, we are living in a world, we are in this digital transition when we cannot go back. But still, we have to adapt and be resilient, and this is the way it is. We are going into a modern world where we cannot survive without technology. But we have at least to be aware that every information, we have to fact check it again. We don't have to be blind in front of the information that is provided to us.
Exact. And the key word that you said is resiliency. Resilient systems, resilient persons, resilient thinking, that's a very important word. Google is counting on the laziness of certain persons to not do this fact-checking step, but it's about, it's about at the end building the right education in our citizens and in our actually societies, that you need to have this critical thinking. You need always to question, again, the basics, whatever you see, so you don't just take it as it is.
Exactly. So today, this artificial intelligence is a reality, and it is offering significant potential for all the journalists, journalistic production. But it is important to foster its efficiency. It's recognizable, and we know that it is part of our life. But here we have all the time to be aware that there is a manpower and a man capacity to change things and to improve things on his own personal perspective, but also creativity. Here, one question, probably you are professionals in the field. Which is better, the AI creativity and innovation, or is it man that is more creative than AI?
Oh, I mean, I wouldn't compare them on. I wouldn't put them on the same scale.
Yeah.
So, as if you're asking me, who's better at math? Is it like the calculatrice or the human being?
Oh, yeah.
Or who's better actually at writing very nice web pages? Is it Microsoft Word or an artist? So, look, it's a technology. It's learning. It's shadowing what we're doing now. So, of course, I do believe at a certain point it will be much, much better. Much better in all of the things. And it's just a matter of time. It's already actually doing it much better in certain things. But then the challenge here, maybe comparing to all of the other changes that humanity have been through, is that actually we're lacking maybe certain creativity to rethink how our role would be. Because the change is so immense. I mean, you take, for example, ChatGPT, and you can do a bunch of stuff with it. So you can do nearly everything. If you think about it, like even for journalists or for us basically in our normal lives, any task you can think of, there's ChatGPT. So any task. So you can always find the answers there and so on. So if it's better, yes, it's getting there and it will be there. If it's authentic, no, it's not, at least till today. But I think the challenge, as I told you, is it's up to us to see how our role should really evolve there. Again, really the example of the calculatrice, so we cannot really compete with that. So, and there is no reason for us even to compete with that. That would look a bit funny.
Yeah, very smart. Yeah, it's a stupid question actually. So concerning the recommendations, actually, what is the outcome? What do you recommend journalists today with the use of artificial intelligence?
Okay, for the recommendation, so one, as we mentioned during our discussion, so first thing is to be agnostic. To be agnostic, again, meaning that just go and try the tools. Install them on your phones, ask them simple questions, ask them complex questions. So it's important to know those tools. So this is already one. And keeping actually on the awareness, we need to understand as well, or to have the basics, how are those tools being developed. And here I'm talking really about every one of us can take, let's say, half an hour, even though I think it's less. Half an hour to understand a bit the basics, how do we build those tools? And you can even ask ChatGPT and it will guide you and so on. So first recommendation is about building awareness. We need to be aware, what are we dealing with, and so on. And second, we need to be, again, it's a very basic recommendation, we need to be aware, actually, what are we doing now? And this is why I said, actually, just every one of us can ask a simple question, what am I doing every day? If you write them on a task list, if you write them actually on a paper, then you would understand and you have the answer if everything that you're doing will be replaced now or actually very soon by an AI agent, or how can you grow from that? So those are really simple suggestions there. From our side, we do offer a platform. It's called SMAX. We do offer a platform with a bunch of videos, like more than 200 videos actually, that can help learn about new products, that can help actually learn about experimentations. If, for example, journalists would like to experiment themselves, because they are the ones seeing firsthand the challenges of the industry. I mean, they're living it every day. So we offer them in this platform a bunch of tools that can help them in their thinking, that can help them in their experiments and so on, without being binded of the challenges, again, about the financial and the access to technologies. And the third point would be, it's a bunch of points, but would be actually collectively to think about your second question, Huda, about the ethics in this, the data integrity. This, the civic trust as well, the access to information, which sometimes actually we tend to forget a bit, but the access to information is the nurturing those tools. Does everyone have the right access to information or not? Is the group of people really kind of reflected on those thoughts or not? So again, as you see, those are really simple bullet points. We're not really into complex things. It's always about being clear. It's always about understanding where we stand technologically, then as a journalist, what we do every day, as an organization, what makes us really live, let's say, what makes us earn income, and as an audience, of course. Gen Z is a huge topic. It's, as a very good friend of mine from Yaluna, Aziz said actually that Gen Z is not one bucket, so it's different buckets. So we need to make the effort to try to understand how the world is changing fast. Otherwise, others will do, and then we'll be turned into simple consumers there.
Exactly. I really enjoy this exchange. Thank you so much for your time and for this participation in the English program. So Wael Yahyaoui, moderator of the conference on AI and journalism, exploring ethical and professional challenges. Wael is from the Deutsche Welle Academy. Thank you so much.
Pleasure is mine, Huda. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Back to music now, and we continue with the rhythm still on RTCI, the best of the radios.